Cheryl, did you pull that door?
Yes.
Just get Okay, the American flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Texas flag.
Go, Pod.
Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas,
Go, Pod.
one state, under God, one and indivisible. Let us pray. Our Father, we just thank you today. Thank you for allowing us to just come together and to have our meeting in person. We've missed everybody and we're just happy to be back here. We just ask your continued blessings over our county and over our nation. Heal us, be with us, show us love, let us show our love. Be with our first responders, our police, our military. Watch over them and give them your shelter and your love. In your name we pray, amen. Okay, any questions on the bills?
I don't have any. Second.
A motion second, any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. You're all right, Kathy?
Well, I have changed.
Okay.
I'll just give those to y'all.
Okay.
And then you give that to Jan afterwards.
Okay.
That's just the people changes. You already those things. I
Yes.
don't know that one girl's name.
New employees, Angelica Hartbrent.
What's her last name, Shirley?
Angelica
Is Hartwraft.
Hartwraft, okay. New field deputy in the sheriff's department, and then separated employees will be LaDonna Mack from the extension office and Jamie Hallmark from the tag assessor's office.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 5, any additions or corrections to our last commissioners court meeting?
No corrections. That was May 26th meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any public comments? We have some public here. There's always the chat box if anyone wants to put a chat on there. Item 7, consider, discuss, approve any and all items necessary or pertaining to the county jail.
We currently have 35 inmates in the jail. 31 of them are male, 4 of them are female. The tasers allowed us to purchase, I got them out in the field as of yesterday. Everybody's trained with 2 officers. So
Good.
other than that, everything's running smoothly. Captain Spaulding is off this week.
What's the status on the shower and the repairs?
We ordered the shower. It says it takes approximately about 3 months to come in. So we're waiting on TDC.
You got that from TDC, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
It
okay.
was the cheapest option.
Yeah.
Best at the time.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
The air conditioner has been installed.
yes.
yes, good. Okay. Yeah, we might need that air conditioner.
So you already got somebody lined up to install the shower when it comes in?
I believe in the industry, our gas tax, it's pretty much just a stand-up shower. It's a stainless steel model. All we gotta do is attach the drain and get it all connected. So
Awesome.
we can use that screw.
All right, thank you. Okay, item 8, consider, discuss, approving in all items necessary pertaining to the county courthouse.
I talked to James this morning, and he said that he still hadn't heard anything back, that they put it up to upper management. He sent them all of the wording from VLP that what they would do and what they couldn't do. And he said they would, this about the same story we get. He's gonna have a meeting with them tomorrow. He will call me tomorrow evening.
It might be time for you and I to have another meeting with them also.
I thought that VLP was not operating anymore.
They're going bankrupt.
Well, but I thought they said they couldn't do anything.
Well, what they said was, at one time,
Yeah.
was that they would go 30% of it. And then they come back, says they wouldn't do that, then they come back, said, yes, we can do that, but if we go the full amount, it bankrupts.
No, okay. I thought they said they
They're going
would.
bankrupt anyway.
Yeah, it sounds like they're going bankrupt anyway, but it's, but if they couldn't afford the full 90,000, some stuff.
I just misunderstood.
So it's kind of back and forth.
Okay, we may need to get you and I and James on a call and
All right,
them.
boosted up.
Yeah, we'll try. More.
Well, I told them that I thought we could probably get started just as quick as we got something from them saying that they would take care of it.
Right.
And,
Okay, yeah.
But I need some time to get open range notified so they can have time to get their people in line too.
Right.
So,
Okay. All right. Item 9, consider and/or approve the 2019 audit report. John,
Ma'am.
you're up.
Oh, good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
If it's easier for you to talk without that, you can.
Oh, bless you. Thank you very much. I haven't quite developed the skill for talking with that silly thing on yet.
Right.
Thank you for that. Thank you for allowing us to come up and serve Hutchinson County as your external auditors once again. It is always a pleasure to get to come up and work with Mark and Kathy and all your officials. You really do have a good group of people in the courthouse working for you. So as much as election law will allow you to, I chain them all to their desks. Really don't want to lose any of them. All right, with that being said, let's dive into this. Page number 1 is my independent auditor's report. This has not changed significantly over last year, but there are always 2 paragraphs that I have to draw your attention to just as a matter of standard. The first one is by far going to be the worst news of the day, so we'll just get it out of the way first. So the second paragraph there on page 1 talking about management's responsibility. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, including the maintenance and implementation of internal control, to ensure that fair presentation and ensure that they are free from material misstatement whether due to error or fraud. What that translates to in English is these first 2 pages of the book are mine. The rest of them are his. The reason why I have to draw that to your attention is the GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association. I've been just complaining about them for years now. But they are marching ever slowly towards saying that we cannot prepare your financial statements for you. They took one more step that direction this year. With their new independence guidelines that they just issued, starting with your 2021 audit, not only do you have to have somebody working for the county that can take responsibility for the numbers, which between Mark and Kathy, you definitely do. They know the numbers of the county. But you also have to have somebody who can take responsibility for the note disclosures, who can come to you and say that we missed or messed up in our disclosure. That's not great news for the Panhandle. Very few of our treasurers or city secretaries, the smaller entities have somebody that has that kind of training and expertise. Thankfully, with Mark being a CPA, he has to go to continuing education every year, and I'm betting you're exclusively putting that towards governmental, because that's what you do every day.
Yes.
So you guys are in excellent shape and are covered. So it's not that big of a deal for you, but now you can't retire.
Right.
To get around some of this, we're looking at a couple of different options. First of which being that with all of our entities, as new standards come out, sending out examples of what those note disclosures should look like so that you'll be in the know as to what should be coming. Alternatively, we are exploring the option of doing what a lot of the firms in the audit firms in the Panhandle are doing, which is not doing your audit under the quote unquote governmental auditing standards, just doing it generally accepted auditing standards. Gives you the same level of assurance and same level of coverage. We just are kind of loosened from some of our more restrictive independence guidelines. So that's an alternative as well. It's a brave new world. Even beyond COVID, it's a brave new world. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, as long as Mark decides he doesn't want to retire, you're covered and you're in good shape no matter what route we take, and we'll kind of approach the future as we have to. What they ultimately are wanting to see happen, it's not economically feasible. They want you to have 2 firms. They want you to have somebody to come in and actually write the financial statements and somebody else to come in and do the audit. Nobody in the Panhandle can afford to do that. It's not economically feasible. So we will try to do everything we can to find an alternative for you and keep going the way we're going. So, like I said, worst news of the day. Everything is up from there. The second paragraph actually almost didn't have to make it in there. Mark and I just couldn't quite get together on our timing of everything with COVID. But it's talking about that the county has omitted the management discussion and analysis report that generally accepted accounting principles requires to be presented. It's a letter that we written primarily out of Mark's office, but with significant input from the court and from the treasurer, talking about what's happening in the county beyond the numbers, what's happened historically, economically to bring you to where you are today, and where the court hopes to see the county go in the next 5, 10, 15 years. None of that is information that I would have access to, so I can't prepare it on your behalf. Mark actually had every intention of writing it this year, and like I said, just because of the pandemic and everything else going on, we couldn't quite get the timing worked out. So I'm optimistic that next year we can get this paragraph omitted. But I can, for this year, conclude it by stating that our opinion is not affected by the omission of the MD&A. So a year from now, if you change your mind, it's not that big of a deal. If you're good with the omission, so are we. All right. Now that tedious stuff's out of the way, let's talk numbers. The county actually ended the year in excellent financial condition as usual. You guys have done a remarkable job with the resources that you have of building up some nice reserves and having the resources you need to take care of business. So on page 3, this is the statement of net position. You see it broken down into a couple of different columns. The governmental activities are all funds of the county aggregated together into a singular unit with all your long-term assets and liabilities presented. The business type activities would be the airport by itself, and then the total column is the county as a whole. In the top left-hand corner, you see cash and cash equivalents of just shy of $8.4 million. That's up about $205,000 over the previous year. We're moving across to the right, the airport of $145,000. That's down just a hair's breadth, about $6,000 over the year. All in all, the county ended with cash reserves of just north of $8.5 million, which is up from last year. That's wonderful. I mean, having cash reserves is always a good thing, especially in the Panhandle. The rest of your assets and liabilities didn't change too significantly, or I'm sorry, your assets didn't change too significantly. As far as your liabilities, about halfway down the page, we have accounts payable. You see the governmental activities of $474,000. That's up about $140,000 over the previous year. What that is the purchase of the election software that came in right at the end of the year, generating that payable. The other big swing is just a handful of lines below that. You'll see your net pension liability. Countywide, you're sitting just north of $3 million. That's up about $3.9 million over the previous year. And as I always state, I don't want you guys to see that number and think your pension plan is in any big trouble. Don't plan on writing a $3 million check tomorrow. It's not a good idea. As far as TCDRS is concerned, at the December 31st, 2018 valuation, even with this liability, you were still sitting at 95% funded, which is excellent condition. What's generating that, and I'll point it out in more detail later, but it's simply market fluctuations. 2018 was not a great market year, so that change and that fluctuation generated this liability. It's not a funding liability, it's an actuarial liability. So your pension plan really is in good shape. Moving down the bottom of the page there, the governmental activities, unrestricted net position, this is the number that I've actually historically said this is the number that y'all care about, because it's, if you convert all the assets of the county into cash and pay off all your obligations, this is what you're left over with. I've slowly started to realize that y'all really care more about the cash. The cash is what you look at for reserves. But looking at this, if you did pay everything off, you'd be left with $6.8 million. Taking your annual expenditures for the year and averaging them evenly over the 12 months, it puts you at 5.3 months of reserves, which is down just a hair's breadth from last year. You're at 5.9. So you maintain pretty flat for the year. The airport's up a month and a half, down slightly from 2.2. To give you a better idea of where the county is financially speaking, I also ran your current ratio. The ability of the county to pay off your current year obligations, so that your current accounts payable and your current debt with your liquid resources, your cash and your receivables, you can pay off your current obligations 15 times over, which is fabulous. You've got plenty of cash reserves to take care of obligations. The airport could do it 4 times over. So even it's in decent shape. You really have built up some nice reserves. Page 4, the statement of activities, our income statement. Just to refresh your memory on how this reads, in the top left-hand corner, you have the expenses of the county broken down by what we call functional area. Moving across the top of the page, you have any direct charges for service, any operating or capital grants that were received, coming into what it truly costs to provide those services. And then down that right-hand side, you have the general revenues, property taxes, interest, gain on disposal of assets, things like that. They're not program specific. They can be applied across the board, coming into your change in net position or net income or loss as it would be for the year. As far as expenses go, total governmental activities, $15.5 million. That's up about 4% or $655,000 over the previous year. And that is all non-cash. It's the change in your retirement plan obligation that generated that entire increase. As far as cash expenditures go, you held pretty flat for the year. The property taxes of $12.2 million are down about 4% as well, $452,000 to be exact. And what generated that, you had a small dip in actual collections, but the majority of that was generated by a decrease in valuations of 10%, netted against an increase in rate of about 7.5%. So you tried to compensate for the decrease in valuation, and it resulted in an overall decrease in revenue of about 4%. That was offset a little bit by the investment earnings, interest that was earned on all the county's cash and investments of $282,000. That's up about $100,000. So the treasurer is doing a good job trying to keep your funds where they are generating the most interest. Short of that, everything else is pretty consistent. The transfers between the governmental activities and the airport are up a little bit for the year. They kept the airport kind of flush, but it drew down the general fund's resources. But that's just going to happen. There's no way around that. All right, pages 5 through 8 are just the fund level presentation. I'm not going to go over these in any detail. This is the information that's going to more closely resemble what's coming out of Mark and Kathy's offices. So you'll see broken down by major fund, and there are no long-term assets or liabilities here. Nothing about the pension plan or fixed assets. The even numbered pages are the reconciliations between what we've already gone over in this fund level presentation, so you can see what was added and how those statements were modified. Page 9 starts the discussion on your airport. It's the exact same information. This is one of those lovely bureaucracy things we have to do, is that the airport gets presented to you the exact same way twice. I don't know why, but they say we have to. So that business type activities column we've already gone over mimics this presentation on page 9 exactly. So we'll skip that. Page 15 starts the notes for the financials. I'm not going to go over these in any great detail. They'll put everybody in the room to sleep. They'll put everybody online to sleep. I know, I wrote them. I will point out a couple that I think would just be of interest to the court. The first one being note number 4 on page 25. This is not a required disclosure. This is something that our firm adds in for the benefit of your readers, talking about the property tax rate, the constitutional maximum that the state of Texas says you can assess compared to where you actually are. With the 80-cent general maintenance and operations and debt service rate that you could assess, were you to max it out based on the 2018 valuation, you could have generated an additional almost $8 million of tax revenue. And that's not even taking into account that there are 2 other tax rolls that you could assess for farm to market roads and lateral roads. So you've got some room to maneuver within your tax rate. You've left yourself not only a fantastic amount of cash on hand reserves, but should something catastrophic befall the county, you can maneuver within your tax rate as well to generate some resources to handle situations as they arise. So you've positioned the county very, very well to handle things should something unforeseen come up. Note number 5 on page 26 is just your capital assets. You did spend a significant amount of cash on capital assets this year. You see about the middle, about the middle of the page there. The buildings and improvements is actually also tied into the construction process just right above it. You have the beginnings of your courthouse floor replacement project. There we go. Couldn't think of the word. You replaced some double doors at the sheriff's office. There was an HVAC unit for the sheriff, and then the jail water heater as well. That was all buildings and improvements. As far as the equipment, we've got the election equipment, a couple of Tahoes, jail control system, a motor grader, just various purchases throughout the year, but that is the cash that you spent on those items. Page 28 starts a more in-depth discussion on your retirement plan. I actually don't want to focus on that. I'm going to draw you to a required supplemental schedule in the back. So put a pin in that. We'll come back to your retirement plan. But note number 10 on page 38. This is a discussion on your concentration of taxpayers. Anytime you have a single taxpayer that accounts for more than 5% of your roll, we have to disclose that fact. That way your readers know that should that particular industry take a significant hit, then you can expect a decrease in your tax roll. You guys are fairly well insulated. Everyone knows who your main taxpayer is, and I don't think they're going anywhere. I think you're okay. You're much better off than some of your neighbors farther to the east, where they're dealing with oil and gas drilling. When they take a hit, they lose 60% of their roll in a year. So yes, you guys do have one large concentration that should something happen, you would feel it, but I really don't think they're going anywhere. So you're fairly well insulated, like I said. Note number 11 on page 39, this is just your long-term debt, so the county can see what you've obligated yourself for. You have the one note payable that was outstanding at the end of the year, and you've got 2 payments left on it, and it's gone away with. And then note number 12 on page 40 is your current tax abatement, and we have to disclose how much you actually abated in property taxes for the year. We do include in there a description of the payments in lieu of taxes. It's not a great offset, but at least it gives, beyond the economic benefit of having a tax abatement, a lot of people who read the financial statements are going to read that you gave up so many millions of dollars in property taxes, and they're going to see that as a negative and not the economic benefit of why it generated. So we try to throw in some additional information to provide some more benefit gain as to why the abatement was entered into. So that's what that note is discussing there. Okay, I told you we talked about the retirement plan a little bit more. Page 44, this is a 10-year, it's going to grow to a 10-year trend on how your retirement obligation is being affected. The top third of the page is your net or your total pension liability. The middle third is the fiduciary net position, or the present value of the assets that you pledged against this liability. And the number that is swinging everything just wildly is right in the middle of the page, the investment income net of investment expenses. And you can see just last year to this year, on the 2017 valuation, you had a $5.5 million investment gain compared to the 2018 valuation of an $803,000 investment loss. That's why your liability swung so much. So as this number, as that number swings, your liability is going to swing. That's the other reason why I don't want you to make any decisions based off of that balance sheet number. It's not a great number. Your pension plan is working the way we would expect it to, but if you decide you want to get some further information or make any changes related to it, please get TCDRS in the building so that they can give you an accurate representation as to where you really are at that moment. So, all right, I'll get off that dead horse. I beat it every year. I really do not like this standard. Page 47. This is, again, not required information. This is more statements that our firm adds in for the benefit of your reader. It's all of your non-major funds, the lovely little $1 and $2 fines and fees that the clerks and the JPs get to collect that they love ever so much. We include this just so that you can always see exactly how every fund of the county is behaving and what's going on within it in case you have your favorites. So we start with the balance sheet for all of your non-major funds, and that runs for about 3 pages. And then starting on page 50 is the income statement. We didn't see anything unusual happening there, so I won't spend a whole lot of time on that. And that really brings me to the end, which is page 54. It's our report on internal control and compliance with laws and regulations. You did not engage us to assess your internal control structure. However, we are required as a matter of standard that if we note any significant deficiencies or material non-compliance with laws and regulations, we have to bring them to your attention. And I'm pleased to state that there were no such issues. No system is foolproof. It doesn't exist. You could throw your entire operating budget at it and you could not achieve perfect internal control. It's a fallacy. It doesn't exist. But we do deal with the personnel and the policies that you have in place. Should something material happen, it was a top priority. So with that, I rushed through it. I didn't want to take up too much time on your agenda this morning. I tried to hit the highlights that I thought would be of the most interest to you. Are there any questions or concerns that I can address this morning?
Looked like you did a good job.
your people helped.
Y'all did a good job.
Yes, I have to agree. We do have some great people.
You really do.
And we're lucky to have Mark and Kathy too.
Y'all can't go anywhere.
Oh, I am. I'm out of here. Yeah.
Cheers.
All right, any questions for John? Do you have a motion to accept the outside audit?
Second.
Motion and second to approve the outside audit. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Thank
John,
you all
thank
again.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
I really appreciate everything, and I again appreciate you all allowing us to come up and serve in this way. As I make my exit, I want to just reiterate our firm's philosophy isn't just to come in at the end of the year and drive Mark and Sam and Kathy and everybody crazy, although some of that's kind of fun. Never mind. We're here year round. If there's ever anything that comes up that we can assist you with, please do not hesitate to give us a call.
And I will say, I contact him many times during the year. So in fact, just a few weeks ago, I did.
And we try to be
And I
diligent in
get an
responding. Yes.
answer. I did.
It makes life easier if we handle situations as they come up rather than
Yes.
digging them up 9 months later. So
Right.
you
I
can
appreciate
take
it.
advantage of that.
I do.
Okay,
Thank you all very
John.
much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Okay, item 10, consider and/or approve the resolution for the submission of the fiscal year 2020 coronavirus emergency supplemental funding program grant. Do you have anything on that, Sheriff?
No, ma'am, I've been working with, actually, it's been more like the jail with Fire Marshal Langwell. If I give you some numbers, when it came to inmates and stuff like that, those were given to Mr. Langwell. So he just told me that he worked hard on that. And I want to say thank you to Mr. Langwell because he has done most of the work on this.
So this is separate. This is separate from the other one. This is more on the law enforcement side.
Right, because we can utilize the numbers, that how much money we spent on inmates that we housed during the COVID-19 pandemic. So,
That should have been transferred to
Yeah.
TDC.
Is that due by the 15th?
Yes,
yes, correct.
gotta have the resolution first.
Okay.
And everybody's been really diligent about
Yes.
hanging on to like receipts, so all of the plexiglass in the courtrooms, we can add on to this grant. Anything that has to do with the court or the law enforcement.
We have to utilize deputies to, like for the doors and stuff like that, all that would come out of there.
Any overtime that we might have to pay them due to Corona, we can tack that on there too. So, thank you, Efren. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the resolution? Do y'all need me to read any of this? So, be it resolved that the Commissioners Court, that a fiscal year coronavirus emergency supplemental funding grant application has been made, and the application for funds to implement a local government coronavirus prevention, response, and preparedness program, and it authorizes the county judge to apply for accept, reject, alter, or terminate the application and the grant on behalf of the county. In the event of loss or misuse, the governing body assures that these funds will be returned.
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, thank you. All right, item 11, to consider and or approve the county employees' health insurance renewal. Y'all looked at all that information that Charlotte has sent and Kathy has sent and worked on so diligently. And thoughts?
Did you print off the stuff that I sent?
I think I've got the very last one that you sent on the, at the end of May.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, yeah, 2 weeks ago.
yes, May the 29th.
Trying to print it.
I have that.
Well, there's a little bigger one.
Oh, good.
Yeah, give me a little bigger one.
Okay.
Mine-
Yeah,
mine printed
I
fine.
was gonna
Pull
need
it
to
up
go.
on-
Yeah, my glasses.
Yeah, some of these are a lot, those things are a little small.
So y'all got the one that Charlotte sent us, right? That there were multiple options on there, which kind of,
Multiple
Yeah, got a little-
confusing.
yeah, got a little confusing.
Yeah.
But there were multiple options on that. And then this one that Kathy's handing out is
This
Yes.
is more of a simplified version of Kathy's version, okay?
It's a little more
Kathy
simplified.
doesn't really, some of those Charlotte's is quite lengthy. And I did talk to Charlotte just a few minutes ago. She called and I mean, you know, she's willing to come back or do
Right.
whatever.
Give us
you know.
other options. I don't know how many other options we can explore, but, because Charlotte gave us a number of options.
Yeah.
But they just basically were just different ways to split up the increase.
So have you got any thoughts on, you know, that first sheet I did for y'all, I just did that because that just, you know,
The total, if we just accept the increase.
yeah, if you accept the increase. Now, I don't think I wrote on y'all's, if you, of course, y'all can divide, but I did write on mine. If you did half on the increase on the employee only, it
It's
would,
on that second page, isn't it?
did I?
This is the
You
county
didn't, you
page.
didn't put the total cost.
Okay, the
for us.
total cost on half the increase on the employee is $32,108.40. I don't think I did put that
So
in there.
instead of 70,812.
And then if you did, of course, the dependents, right now, what you're paying on dependents is the $6,595.20. So of course, half of that's $32,9760. I don't think I put that on there. So let's say you did half on the employee, half on the dependent. This is just a scenario, okay? That would cost you about $35,406. If you took the total increase, it's gonna cost you $70,812. And then as you can see on that second page on those scenarios I did, that first one that I did, that's the county paying the increase. And then the second one is paying half on the second one is paying half on the employee, but the employee paying their full amount on the dependents. And then you're gonna have to add a little bit on the copay down there on the bottom. I wrote down there, if you wanna balance it. You know, we're getting to the point, it's hard to balance because because you give the 125 a month on the HSA. The increase, you know, they don't really take that into consideration tax. They take it on the increase on what our rates were, our original rates. So you're getting to the point, it's a little hard to, if you have a 5% on the HSA and a 5% on the 80/20, they're gonna be different. So you're either gonna have to start paying a little more or charging the employee a little more, whatever. So what, I mean,
So this bottom one is 32,000 to the county,
108.40.
108.40 to the county. And then the employee will pay half of the increase.
Which amounts to,
well, half of the increase for the employee, I mean, the employee is $32,9760. Which you can tell from the rates, this bottom one here. Now this bottom one here, I've got just the employee paying the full increase on their dependents. So you can tell what the increases are. You know, the increases are, I mean, 5% is pretty minimum this year. But, and like I told y'all before, we only got 5% because that's all TAC needs. If they needed more, oh, we would have got more because our claims are
yes.
out there, you know. So,
So basically, right now on the HSA, the employee pays $413.62 for a dependent, and then new rate, they would pay $477. Yes, 32. Yes, ma'am.
of course, we don't have anybody on the family. It doesn't mean we won't, but we don't have anybody right now. We haven't in a while. But. And of course, on the, you know, when you look at my sheet up here, you know, that tells how many employees and stuff, you know, that HSA, I put 61, but I put, that includes a possible extension agent employee and a jailer not hired. Well, we're hiring a jailer this week,
Yes, ma'am.
and of course, I won't know till then what they choose.
Right, if they decide to take the insurance or not.
And, you know, we still have about 7 that don't right now that come.
That could come
When
back
we
on.
have open enrollment in August, they could come on, and that's about $80,000-$90,000 if they all come on. And I didn't even really put anything on this for the retirees. I don't know, I guess my thought was y'all probably are gonna have them take their increase, it's so little, but I can figure retirees. We've got, you know, 3 coming off this year, 3 next year. The ones that are retiring this year, at the end of this year, there's not any of them gonna be under 65, so they won't be on this. We have Larry in red, we've got Kendall,
Ron.
Ron. Of course, Erin's leaving because she's going over there, but so that don't make any difference. So,
But the new one there, is she on our insurance?
yeah, yes, she is.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there would be no problem with that.
Okay, thoughts? I mean, you know, y'all can keep thinking, and
But
We have to have,
do this by June 30th.
we have one
We
more
don't have
meeting.
much more thinking.
We have one
yeah,
more
if you
meeting.
want some more figures, you got to tell
So on this
me.
bottom one here, instead of 125.81, it's supposed to be 130.140. Is that what this explanation is?
Yes,
So-
yes, on this right here, the county, yeah, they're paying $5.59 more. Because, okay, if you look at this HSA, this bottom one here, and you go to county pays half the increase, this is only on the employee, okay? That total, that $889.92, that comes up to, I wrote in on mine, $1014.92. So this right here, that right there, Larry, and all that, that is, the total on that's $1014.92. Well, if you look right here, under the copay paying half, it's $1020.51. So somebody's gotta, either you're gonna pay a difference in the employees, or you're gonna have to put that $5.59 on the copay to them on the $125.51. So that if
Because
you
we're paying
want
more here.
yeah, if you wanna pay,
So really,
The same amount.
this one needs to be 131.40
if you
Yeah.
want to pay
equal.
equal, you know, like I said, you know,
Getting where we can.
we're kind of getting off of that equal stuff.
How many people do we have now?
Right here. Oh, okay. Now, when you look at this, remember, I did like Charlotte on this. I did the, you know, the employees, we have 61, but then you need to add these in. So you've got 73 employees on the HSA, and you have 40 employees on the other, on the copay. And of course, like I said, you got about 7 that don't take the insurance at all right now, so. And that in the middle, that I just gave that as an example. That's how we break it down every month on what we pay and,
And they could move around the numbers.
Yeah, they could.
Oh, yeah.
change.
yeah, cause come,
Last year they did.
yeah, we'll do open enrollment, probably, we'll get the open enrollment package the middle of July, so we'll probably do open enrollment the month of August this year. And, yeah, they'll have a time period there to, they wanna
Change
go
their,
off,
change their
go
plan
on,
or whatever.
So is that a problem that we get away from being equal?
That's up to y'all. I don't
Was
know.
that a problem in the past?
Well, we haven't dealt with it in the past because we didn't
We
deal
only
with
had
it until
one
we
option.
started the HSA.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know there's lots of companies, my husband's company, they pay what they pay on HSA, which is a little cheaper, then they will pay that on the 80/20, but then the employee has to pick up that 80/20, the rest of it. So they don't pay equal. Now, I don't know about I don't know why it make any difference, but
I mean, it depends on our long-term goal of what we want to do with these plans. If we
Yeah.
wanna Eventually go to one plan with HSA or keep these two forever, or, I mean, it's.
Thing of it is though, the over 65 on Medicare, they can't get on HSA.
Right.
So that's.
well,
They
they
can,
can if they don't choose
Yeah.
Medicare.
Right.
The ones
Yeah,
we have
not the
some that do.
Medicare good.
Yeah, they will, if they won't choose Medicare right now, if they're still working, then they can get on that HSA.
I think we just need to get to a flat amount that we pay,
Whatever choices.
yeah, whatever choice.
Well, the purpose of this was to encourage people to go to SSA. It's a-
HSA, yes, it was. Yes, it was.
You know.
And
2/3 of them are there.
Then you get everybody on HSA, then HSA plan will change.
Yeah.
Well, it changed a little bit.
they did, yeah. I don't know. I mean, you know, like I said, y'all can look at it at the next meeting, and if you want different figures or something. Probably the next meeting you need to.
Yeah, we're gonna have to make a decision for sure. So can y'all think of any other figures that you want to look at?
Well, I think our decision is, are we gonna absorb
The whole
the whole
70,000?
cost or how much? You
Right.
know, and that's just
That's
something
the
that's come
decision.
up.
That's-
And it's really difficult since we don't know if we're gonna have any money or not.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's the,
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
it's
So-
gonna be a little bit of a,
We will have a snapshot by next meeting, but we won't have, our certified values by
Right.
next meeting.
what snapshot is he gonna?
Well,
do?
I've asked everyone to send their budget.
Oh, you're talking about
requests.
the budget.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
I'm talking about the money we're gonna
Yes,
get
yeah.
for the big question.
Right,
So we should be getting another.
Yeah, we
draft.
should be getting one the next week or two, because last year we got one on June
It
first.
was,
So we should be getting one here.
of
I haven't
course,
asked you.
course, it's the final one, not till
Yeah.
25th of
July
so,
25th, yeah.
Yeah.
But Joe's real good about y'all getting that one kind of at the,
And you know, I think, like, of course, the tack up the time on this, you
Yes.
know, hoping it
you
would
can
help
see
with
that
the
from the
budget,
calendar I sent
Right.
y'all.
but I don't know how that really helped because we don't know
The
our
only thing
tax thing until.
Yeah, the only thing that it helps with is in the event that we need to prepare for an election, it gives us the
Yeah.
time to do that.
Yeah.
It doesn't help with anything else.
No. I mean, because y'all won't, I mean, like I said, you won't know until the end of July or
Right.
July whatever, and
July
So-
25th.
maybe next year they'll move this up even more, or I don't know.
Start working on our budget in
It'll be-
January.
It'll be till after the next legislature.
Well, that's true, yes. I don't know. I think they just thought if they could get those rates out. Of course, I think next year they'll have to bid out their, with Blue Cross or whoever, they'll have to bid their insurance out next year, TAC will, so. But I will say that pharmacy, when they changed it helped a great deal. You know, I know people hated it first, but oh my gosh, that Navitus has saved a bunch of money, for all the groups. Good, so.
Okay.
But anyway, okay, if y'all need me to visit with Charlotte some more, you let me know, okay?
Okay, so do y'all
Thank
Do
you,
you
Ken.
feel
Uh-huh.
comfortable with the figures that you've got to look at and make a decision by next meeting, or?
I feel good about what we have.
Okay. All right. You don't need to look at anything else, get your copy. Otherwise, we'll, yes. Okay, do you have a motion to just table this item then? Second, okay, so motion and second to table the item for the county employees health insurance renewal. We will make a decision at the next meeting, so we gotta have that done, okay? All right, any further discussion on that? All in favor? Okay. All right, item 12 is to consider and or approve the budget planning calendar. I sent that to each of you in your email. Have y'all had a chance to look over those dates? In the middle of that, in August is, TAC has decided to move all of the training that we canceled in the spring to August.
17th to
So the
21st.
17th through the 21st is West Texas judges and commissioners. However, that's still iffy whether or not we have a meeting Friday. So I'll just give you all a heads up on that. We may end up having to cancel it because of requirements for 50% capacity, and the facility will not accommodate us. And the numbers that we have. So I'll let y'all know on that, but this heads up that there'll be, if we continue that, there'll be a whole week in there that we'll all be gone, so.
Only one period.
Right, yeah, yes, they narrowed us down to only one public hearing this year, so that saved us a little bit of time there towards the end. So did y'all have any questions on the dates on the calendar? Carrie and I have gone over that. Seems to be and it's just days off of last year's calendar, really. The biggest change is that we have to have the proposed tax rate and budget proposed, by the 30th. So, got a motion to accept the calendar?
So moved.
Motion and second to approve the budget calendar. And again, I'll remind you, that says 2019 because they still haven't posted the updated one. So we just kind of marked through the stuff that we knew was going to change. Okay. All right. Motion and a second to approve the proposed calendar. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Thank you. All right, item 13, consider and/or approve proposed county game room regulations. Russell, do we have anything in the chat box yet? Russell, stop playing with the ink pen. Okay, Chris, you have some information for us?
All right, so we've talked about this since last year, and our county was not able to regulate the game rooms and the unincorporated parts of the county due to the legislation just not allowing us to do so. And then in the last legislative year, they allowed us to do it. So we had been talking, we were trying to get a TAC to get some sample ordinances, simple regulations from them. We haven't gotten any from them so far. Fritch and Border, we were trying to do it for Fritch. Fritch passed theirs, and so kind of put it on the back burner to let TAC get theirs together. But now
And they keep saying they're gonna put those out, but they have yet to actually put a sample.
So I sent Mr.
Numerous.
Allison several
Yeah.
personal messages on that app, and I just haven't gotten back before. And then I sent out one to all of us on that message board. But now's the time to kind of just I've worked with Kirk in the past. We were talking about this, and I sent this to Sheriff about the regulations, and he is in agreement that we do want to, these game rooms typically bring illegal activities and just dangerous situations for those residents around the game rooms. So it's not banning the game room existence. It's more what City Border and Fritch did, in which they're regulating as far as hours, the payouts of the machines, how many machines they can have, having to get a permit to where we know who's owning, operating it, and things like that. And that's what these regulations are, and also the permit. And I sent those out last night. I know you probably didn't get a chance to read a lot because one's 27 pages and one's I think 17 or 18. But this is kind of a starting point just to see what we want to do, what we desire to do as far as hours. This is a draft from another county, Morris County, that I got in contact with them, and Terrence and I can't remember, the city of Houston's done it too, but Harris County.
Yeah.
Several of them, they're the larger ones, but a lot of the smaller ones, I couldn't find sample ones, and a lot of the larger ones have the resources that we don't have. So this is a little bit more on par with what we could do and what we should do, I think. And we have to, do you remember, Larry, I was talking with Mr. Miller this morning. about the timeline of public hearings and ordinances, and he mentioned that you were instrumental with the sexually oriented businesses ordinances.
I don't think there's the timeline, if I remember correctly, were basically just public notice in so many days,
Right.
like 14
14
days
days.
after you approve the ordinance to have public hearing and then a vote after the public hearing.
And he was going to
14 days is what I remember, but I'm not going to guarantee this, right?
He couldn't remember. He was going to check to make sure the law, because that was several years ago. The
Right.
laws could have changed as well, so he was going to check on that. But this is our first step to get that timeline going. To kind of,
So these regulations and, kind of skimmed through them,
Right.
haven't read them word for word, like you said, but these are pretty standard regulations that since they allowed the counties our size to put these into place, it's just this kind of a standard.
it is standard. The things we can kind of play around with to cater to us would be the hours if you wanted to change them. These have them that they can't open on Sundays, but then Monday through Saturday, they're open 8 to midnight, 8 a.m. to midnight. Border and Fritch, I think Border allows them 8 a.m. to midnight every day. So it's things like that that we can change. We can change
Even on
that.
Sundays?
I believe so.
Uh-huh.
One of them does. I can't
Okay.
remember.
Fridge does.
Um,
I read it right.
Yeah, and then we can also change the permit cost. Fridge is $1,500. Borders is $5,000. So I mean, depending on what you want to do with that, that level of
So the application,
the application fee.
yeah,
Their annual permit for Border is $5,000. Fridge is $1,500. And then there's per machine rates and things like that we can change. But this is pretty standard what I drew up.
and Mike's looked at all this,
He hasn't looked at all of
The
these,
final?
but he's gonna look at them this week. He was out of the office
okay,
last week. Last week. So, he's got a couple of trials he said he was needing to get prepared for. He said he probably wouldn't be here today, but he was gonna look at it. And I said, he did mention we could go ahead and kind of talk and discuss, and pending his approval or whatever changes we need to make, we can talk about that next time.
thanks for your work on this.
Yeah, very much so.
And I agree, I think this is something I've had kind of over there on the back burner.
Right.
So thanks for stepping up and doing that. Anyone have any questions? I guess at this point, we kind of need to get Mike's approval on this and we can move forward after that. If y'all are wanting to.
He's there, like you said, we can move forward now, pending Mike's approval.
Pending Mike's approval. Mhm.
So, the quicker we get started, probably better off we'll be.
Right, and then if there is a 14-day, which I'm kind of like you, Larry, I think there's like, once you approve the proposed, I think that's what I want to say too, is
Yeah,
14 days.
Maybe
There may be more time there.
Yeah, he's gonna check because
we
laws
might
are always changing.
find out what the timeline is before we do approve it.
Yeah.
Right,
You'll get us in trouble for,
right.
if we approve it, we might have to have a timeline, maybe next meeting, and we're not be quick enough.
We would have just 14 days to our next meeting if we approved proposed regulations today. Then we could have a public hearing on them, if that is correct, on Monday and move towards adoption if everything's been approved.
But if we have to change it because of Mike seeing something else.
Yeah, then we'll have to do something different, but it's potentially we could.
I don't know that we're not having some unknowns whether we need to rush right now. And we don't have any that we know of getting ready to open, but Trevor, you hadn't heard of anything.
No.
Yeah, okay. Was that right?
Make the motion to adopt the proposed gaming rule regulations, waiting for Mike Milner's approval.
Sure.
So as written,
As written,
Okay.
that Chris has wrote up, and any changes that might see, we guess we'll have to bring back up.
right, then we'll have to bring the changes back up with the amendment and then go from there.
Do we have a fee set in that?
There's a fee, it's $1,500 per permit.
Okay.
That for the application.
I didn't know if you-
Oh, okay. I thought I wrote that.
Non-refundable fee.
That was very similar to Tarrant County.
Okay, now this says a $1,000 application fee
Oh, yes, sorry.
and
First
renewal,
was 1,500.
renewal is 1,000, you know, so. And Fridges is 1,500.
Yeah, sorry, I was getting.
All right.
There's a lot of numbers added.
Yes.
But it's got distance measurements from schools,
Sure.
churches, neighborhoods.
Right.
I liked the time frame that you had and closed on Sundays. I'm good with that. Yeah. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to adopt the proposed guidelines with Mike's approval. And then possibly scheduling a public hearing if they're approved as written, we'll schedule a public hearing for the 22nd. Okay, all right, well, motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, all right, thank you, Chris. It's a lot of work.
Thank you.
Well, they're, Morris County helped out a lot, so.
Yeah, they have a lot more.
Judge, can I have a copy of that?
Yes, you can. I will give you this copy because I got pretty much. Okay.
A lot of
Okay.
redundancy.
It is, yeah. That's why I got to put it on the back, or I want to make sure I didn't do it wrong or incorrectly, but I needed to get it going. Yeah.
All right, item 14, an update on the COVID. Jerry's out this week. What I have is just an update from our Region 1 cases within our Region 1 Amarillo. We've had 5,010, 76 deceased. The Amarillo Health Department, Potter and Randall counties. Oh, well, that's just Potter and Randall. So that Region 1 includes us. Haven't had any case. We had a big week last week. We got like 7 in one day, but that was directly related to unemployment. And so I haven't had any since then. And they've kind of backed off on the weekends, and they're letting their people off on the weekends now instead of working 24/7, 365. So I didn't get any calls over the weekend, which is good. Yeah. So we're staying stable right now. I think Potter is still on the increase, I see, but the last report I have here shows them to have 2,754 cases. Dutch Smith went up like 10 or so last week. Again, they're up just 176. So let's continue to take precautions. Here in the courthouse, we've got the infrared thermometers in. They are going to have a grand jury in here tomorrow, but they've got a procedure in place to check everybody before they come in, and they're recommending masks. And so the sheriff's been so gracious as to give us a deputy downstairs this week since Deputy Homan's on vacation. So we've moved someone else down there to help monitor and sanitize and take temperatures. And
I had my temperature like.
there you go. Haven't heard any complaints on the one public access. I do see a lot of people, even though Dwayne and Eddie did an amazing job of posting these large green signs out there. Everyone just walks right by them. So we have signs on the doors too. So I think it's working out well. Anything else that y'all have on that?
Museum and libraries, I haven't had too many complaints or anything.
Good. Yeah. I think everyone expects something. So Cindy, everyone's
I've had about 3 employees ask me, I think they just want clarification on it, on the letter that was sent out on the recommended 100 miles?
Yes, initially that was my recommendation, but
They want to know if they can go somewhere.
yeah,
What
absolutely.
they're able.
They just, everyone needs to practice
Okay.
good hygiene, social distancing, but yeah. They could still have gone before, but
Yeah, they were being nice, but they
They
weren't
were.
going.
yeah, they would be, super conservative about going anywhere. And if they did, maybe staying home for a few days just to isolate. Okay, so we'll move on to item 16, consider and or approve the burn ban or rescind the burn ban. So I just looked briefly this morning, what the KPI was 354 for us. That's probably gonna increase dramatically over the next few days, so, yeah. But to my knowledge, if I would, we haven't, I don't know, we've had, do you know, Sheriff, we've had any fires? Just that one at Jim Hall and Tim.
Within the last 2 weeks, two of them.
That one fired up twice. They went this
Yeah.
morning too.
Yeah.
Jim Hall and Tim. Was that oil tank or?
I don't know what started. It was right under the water tower.
black.
Yeah,
That water tower was yesterday, did rekindle
well,
today.
last night and about 7 o'clock this morning.
Yeah.
We
Got
were
smoked off.
yesterday for lunch.
There was another one here in Randish.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
There was one up north of County Road E, by the League Cemetery.
okay.
It's not-
So hopefully we'll everyone will be
Sure.
cautious and be careful. So no action on that. 17, consider and or approve disposal of obsolete office equipment. I don't have anything, get any request. 18, accept certificates of completion from elected or appointed officials.
I have one, Kathy Sargent, our treasurer, has one from the VG Young Institute for 3 hours of educational training. It's on 2020 moving forward as Senate Bill 2 and the county budget.
Kathy, on one,
I took it twice. I did. I should have got 6 hours.
I was going to. Got
Why?
interrupted.
I saw that you registered for a conference that was a Zoom or whatever.
Yes, investment,
Was that a 1 day? How long was
it's 2 days.
it? 2 days, okay. I just saw the registration fee and I just
Yes.
wondered if that was not 3 hours.
Yeah, I usually, no, no, it's 2 days, it's all
Yeah.
day. Yeah, I usually go to Amarillo and have it,
Right,
for 2
right.
days, but now they're doing Zoom with it.
Right.
No, it's the 16th and 17th all day
Right.
on those days.
And I feel like a lot of our training may be going.
Oh,
So you get credit for that one on Zoom?
yeah, we didn't. It was only, I think it was auditors and treasurers. were the
Yeah.
only ones, right?
Yeah.
I got my
You were
hopes
on
up.
it too.
tonight.
Yes, I was,
The
but
next
the
day.
only time we ever get any credit is if we do judicial hours. And that's administrative.
I opened that form, get my hopes up, and it only said
Yeah.
treasurer.
And there was questions on it, y'all were even gonna get it, I think people were
Yeah,
asking
but we did
questions.
that.
Yeah, definitely.
It was good information.
It was a good, yeah, I'm glad we went ahead and did that because we were supposed to do that at West Texas. Okay, item 19, consider and or approve request for these club rooms. We're still not renting, right? Okay, or
Just a
opening.
jam.
Okay, and yeah, we've got that booked up. 20, consider and or approve line item changes, transfers, and or budget amendments.
Not any.
Okay. 21, consider and or approve advertising, opening, accepting, or awarding bids. Okay. 22, consider and or approve donations to Hutchinson County. Sure.
Not yet.
Okay. 23, accept reports from elected or appointed officials.
I have the county clerk, district clerk, JP1, JP2, Edie Bradford with extension office, airport. Those are the only ones I have.
Okay.
Okay, this is the financial for May 2020. And on the second page, our ending balance in the bank account was $28,906.52. And on the last page, our ending balance in text pool was 12,627,460.37. And the interest rate today is 0.21. Not very quick, but maybe next week. Thank you, Kathy. Always next week, right?
Item 24, discussion of county judges and commissioners precinct daily operations. Do you want to say something about our master
Yeah.
plan?
The other day, I got the master plan for a courthouse, and I took it over to Jan's office. I don't know if she saw it this morning or not. But it had been delivered and it was approved by the historical commission. And something else too, the extension office asked me the other day, said that they were trying to interview for a new employee. And they was wondering if they could go ahead and tell the person that they could have the job so they could have it started by the 29th this month. Because if we wait till the next meeting, they wouldn't have 2 weeks for the person to.
Right, so
to
they
turn
want
it in.
to make a decision and then
Right.
bring her to the court kind of after the
Right.
fact for our approval.
And I said, normally we don't, if that's who they want, that's who we approve.
Yes,
So, but I told them we'd ask.
our approval is just merely a formality.
Formality, right.
Yeah,
And so I told them if they're interviewing today, is why Christie didn't come up and ask. And,
they would probably bring to you a red and kind of introduce.
Yes,
I don't have a
they're
problem.
always really good about that.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
So it's consensus.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll tell Christie on my way out. The consensus is,
They can, we'll leave that up to their good judgment.
and then another thing they wanted, and I told them I didn't see a problem with it, was maybe starting them at a lower salary than their normal salary, then 6 months, maybe give them a raise, and maybe a year, give them another raise or something. And I said, I don't know about the year, but I think start them on a lower salary is something we all do anyway.
That's a normal process.
And so,
Has she talked to you about that? Okay.
okay, she's talked to, okay.
Good.
And your response was?
It was fine. Yeah, that was
Okay.
good. That was a good idea.
All right. So.
Okay.
She will, something else.
I might just get your opinion on continuing our meetings, even though we are meeting here in person and the meetings are open to the public, should the public choose to come. Do y'all want me to continue to do the Zoom? My thoughts are yes. I like having that, the public that would, I know they don't normally come. We don't have a lot of public, but this gives people the opportunity to see what the commissioners are doing if they watch the YouTube. I think if they need to make a comment, a public comment, then that they need to come in person. So we may need to figure out if we can shut the chat box off some way and any public comments, because we are open to the public and we are an open meeting, then any public comments need to be done in person. Are y'all okay with that?
We take the comments off.
Right.
There are, I've noticed in that, I don't know if the city Amarillo or the Amarillo School Districts, which one that are doing this. But if we go to the open forum type deal and we have people that want to send information in and not appear, they are allowing them, if they send it by email or
Prior
some way,
approval.
at least an hour before the meeting.
Right.
So there's some options that we have, but as far as a chat box, we do not need to have that because
They can appear.
we
in
need to
person.
know the topic whether it does
Yeah.
that. But,
And we're still.
and I don't know whether we need to do Zoom or just YouTube or whatever, but I think some way we need to make it available to the public. We started it, and I don't think we need to take it away. I think
How some of the other larger ones?
I don't know. I haven't talked to anybody about it.
that's something we can get some information
Yeah.
on.
You can always use Zoom, you can stream it live from Facebook, from a page
Right.
there, and that kind of takes away the other, they can watch
Right.
it, if they don't have their cameras on or anything like
Right.
that. I don't know if
I
we'll
would
be able
like
take
to-
the chats off, we just can't, we don't have to look at them.
Right, we won't be
On our-
responding to them.
I would like to review the options of what we can do.
I'll look
If I
into
could-
that between now
Okay.
and our next meeting, so we know for sure, maybe see what some of the other counties are doing.
Okay.
Moving forward,
I do like it.
I do too. Okay, anything else on precinct daily operations? Dale, did you have anything?
Yeah, to,
Okay,
on Wednesday at the airport, they'll have a walkthrough with potential contractors and show them what the contracts will be. And stuff. Yeah. We had one over, we had one over the phone,
Oh, okay.
but they felt like they needed to actually come to the
What
The
is,
job site.
what is this? What is this involving? On the,
the runway
What?
project?
runway north-south.
we've already done some work, no work. What did we approve? Did we approve something?
The engineering part.
The engineering part, okay.
Part, they-
This is the actual construction.
Yeah, this will be the actual construction
I
part.
knew we had approved something.
Yeah.
like that.
But they really couldn't come to the site because of
Yeah.
what we're going through. So this is giving them an opportunity again. I think the bidding will go out after that. And then we should know something by the end, first July, maybe.
This is under the observance of Texas.
Yes, that's right. And then the other thing did that guy from Smart did you ever get a hold of him?
He called me back.
Okay.
It's way more involved than what you think. We need to talk separately. But because what they want to do is evaluate all of our energy uses and make a proposal on energy savings. But I don't think he understands we've done that, the air conditioning.
Yeah.
And we've done a lot of the lighting.
Mhm.
And the water and the gas,
There's
I don't
no
know.
option.
I don't know how they can do anything there.
Yeah.
They're asking for a lot of information that's very time consuming.
We've already done that before we did the lighting.
They sent another email, oh, well, yeah,
Yeah, and that was quite time consuming for them, you know. But that was done before we
yeah,
got the
that was a
lights.
different organization.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what he can do. I looked up their history,
Mhm.
and their history is back east. And it's so big municipalities back east, that's what their history is. So I don't know what they plan on doing.
I guess I'll call him.
I told him I'd talk to you and then we'd get
Yeah.
back to him.
Okay.
Okay.
Y'all will talk.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on the precinct daily operations? Y'all can keep waiting. The only thing I have is that you've seen the budget calendar. I sent out the request from the department heads or elected officials, should have those all in by Monday the 15th. And so by the 22nd, we need to start working. So just FYI, we may need to schedule a few more meetings. I know. Be prepared. All right. Item 25, consider and or approve sale of struck up tax properties or tax deeds. I think we have three or four, maybe three. Okay, the first one is 713 McPherson Street, a bid of $750. It's a tax deed by Dorothy and Jason Brown. Is that yours, Chris? Okay.
That's over in Rock Creek, and that is,
Yes.
the picture that is on that is the exact, I was gonna get another picture, but there was a group of people there when I drove by. It's like a storage zone, so I don't want to take a picture. But it's right, I mean, it's right, it's a grass lot, I mean, it's an empty lot next to it.
Next to the house
Next to that.
for 700.
$750, that's more than we get for a lot.
So I'll make a motion to accept that bid.
Okay,
Second.
motion and second, any further discussion on that property? All in favor? And the next property is 0 Wichita Lane in Fritch. Are these together, Dale? And 0 Sioux Lane in Fritch. An offer of 100 on that first property and 50 on the second property. Oh, they're not together.
Oh, they're not together.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought you meant the two lots.
Okay, let's go 0 Wichita Lane. An offer of $100 has been made by Victor and Patty Wilkins. Taxes haven't been paid since 2005, struck off in 2013, appraised at $3,700. It looks like that.
Yeah, empty lot.
$3,000.
Yeah, empty lot.
Yeah, it's appraised at 3,700.
Yeah,
We
there's,
haven't updated.
Maybe there was a structure on that
no,
one.
there wasn't. It doesn't look like there was.
Might have been when they appraised it
It's all grown up with trees and stuff.
I've been afraid
10 years.
1980.
Right.
Make a motion to accept the offer $100 for lot 75 and 76 by Victor and Patty Wilkins.
Second.
A motion and second to approve the bid. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. And the final one is located at 0 Sioux Lane in Fritch. Submitting an offer of $50 has been made by Hope Fowler and Nicholas McKay. Taxes haven't been paid since '98 and was struck off in 2004, and it's valued at $710.
So it's Don Mitchell instead of Sue Lane.
Oh, the address. Okay.
And that's that Don Mitchell, previously Sue Lane, is unpaid.
Why did it change? You don't know?
That's what it's called.
Taxes.
This came from the Greenville district.
Uh-huh.
They just had never updated on their other part.
How big is this lot? Can anyone do anything with it, or is it one of those little bitty lots?
That's a little big lot. It's unpaved road. There's hardly any development down there.
Okay.
On the far west side. I make a motion, we accept the offer of $50 by Hope Fowler and Nicholas McKay for lot 5 in unit 3 Double Diamond.
Motion and second, any further discussion? All in favor?
They were just saying yes about the meetings. Zoom meetings.
Oh.
They just wanted us to continue online.
Okay.
Unless there's another. Speaking of road changes, I don't know if you saw the Border City Council meeting, but they have a Chicken Express plat area now, so it's official.
Where that old,
Chicken
the old dump
Express
church was?
And most likely Wendy's. They call it. the
Oh,
Chicken
together, they'll be all in one building?
Wendy's?
Well, no, there's two plots there. One access, they'll have both access from Wilson, because there's access on one of the lots to Roosevelt. But they don't know if they're gonna have it to both or not, but that is official.
And you say Wendy's too?
Moving right on up.
Happens
Little
on the other
Caesars,
side.
Little Caesars last month.
Little Caesars.
Right next to McDonald's.
Yeah.
I tell you what, that Chicken Express, that's good fish.
They got good gizzards.
Gizzards.
So they don't know if they have access to Wilson.
No, they have that's gonna be the main access, because it is.
Oh, they did give them access through.
There's
through
already,
Wilson.
there is an entrance there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the back.
There's an entrance to both on Wilson.
Yeah, there's one.
It's cut in, but there's only one to Roosevelt on one lot, so they don't know if they're gonna keep them.
They need to remember that's downhill. And don't put your front door
Right,
where the water runs in.
right. Okay, anybody have anything else? Okay, if there's nothing else, meeting adjourned. Thank you. Oh, yeah. It's good to be back with everybody. Everybody wondering, we think we're gonna get rain.
Yeah.